Hi everyone and welcome to my very first Flosstube video. So my name is Holly, House of Hood on YouTube and Instagram, I believe. I'm really not very good at this kind of stuff, and as a result of that I'm incredibly nervous. So I will pre-warn everybody that there is the real potential for this video to be quite waffly and longer than I intend. So it's just a little pre-warning. I do hope you stick around. I would love to sort of meet and potentially get to know some stitchy people. Yeah, so there isn't going to be a structure as such to this video. I'm going to introduce myself properly, talk a bit about my background and how I got into stitching, and then show you some of my stitchy stuff. So yeah, I'm just gonna get into it and hopefully it won't be too boring. So my name is Holly, as I already said. I'm 36 and I live in the north of Essex with my husband Jason and our Bengal cat Boo, who I just keep looking to the side because I think he's going to go to sleep, which I hope he does, but he might become quite vocal because that's what he's usually like. So just pre-warning again, if there are any meows, that's him. He might come up and say hello. I kind of hope he does because he's adorable. If he gets too much at any point, I will edit it out, but generally I'm just going to leave him in the background because he's not harming anybody. So yeah, I'm originally from London. I've been told I have quite a muddled accent, and that's because I lived in Newcastle for a little while when I was a kid, and yeah, it's just gone all higgledy-piggledy. I know most people don't believe me when they hear that I was born in Camden Town in London, like northwest London. So yeah, if anybody is wondering about the accent, that's why. I am a psychology graduate. I graduated a couple of years ago now, from Greenwich University with a first class psychology degree, and I'm hoping to go back to university at some point to pursue either a second undergrad or a master's. I'm not sure which, yeah. But that's the plan. However, that is on hold due to health and mental health stuff, which I will talk about a little bit because I feel like there's a lot of taboo around both of those subjects, and I would like to try and break that wall down a little bit because it's the reality of a lot of people. So, and it also links into how I got into cross stitching as well. So yeah, I have a fair amount of chronic health conditions and disabilities, and I also have a few mental health stuff going on. So in terms of mental health, like I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder and OCD, and I guess a learning difficulty. I'm dyslexic and dyspraxic, and I have recently, last October, so yeah, recently been diagnosed with ADHD, which came as a surprise to nobody. I really don't think, even though I remember the night before my assessment, I convinced myself that it was gonna, I was gonna be told I was neurotypical. And I remember a lot of people just saying to me, you really have nothing to worry about. So yeah, but as a result of my chronic health conditions and my mental health and learning difficulties, I am a very self-conscious and shy and awkward person. I don't necessarily know if that's going to fully come across on camera because I'm talking to myself, which I do all the time. It's just I'm filming it now and showing pretty stuff. But face to face, I really struggle. I stutter, I shake, I go non-verbal. Like it's really quite hard for me when I meet new people. And what sucks about that is I actually love meeting new people. I spent a lot of my life convincing myself that I didn't like people. And I think that's just because I didn't have answers as to why I was different from other people. And now I kind of do have some of those answers. It's made me look at myself a lot differently, and that's where cross stitch ultimately comes in, and also doing the videos. And you know, I really do want to try and build my confidence. I've never been an overly confident person. I've been bullied throughout my life for being different, and you know, I'm okay with that. I suppose you know, put it this way, I'd rather not know those people or be around those people. But off the back of that, convincing myself that I enjoyed just being on my own all the time, and then realising actually that's not quite true, it has been sad and also really an interesting thing to learn about myself. So I'm hoping that doing these videos that I can build some confidence, maybe at some point even come to a retreat or something like a stitch day, I don't know what they're called, something like that. But also just talking to people online is difficult enough for me, so even getting some progress with that or working on that a little bit would be huge. So like I said, my ADHD diagnosis came last October, but I actually started cross-stitching March of last year. And it came off the back of a very, very difficult period of time with my physical health, which then obviously had a massive impact on my mental health. And I had essentially been sort of housebound for many, many months at that time, after a very significant period of illness which lasted a couple of years. A couple of my other conditions, like I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I have POTS, which I think is a symptom more than a diagnosis in itself, but that's by the by. And I have endometriosis and adenomyosis. I have no idea if I pronounced the last one correctly. And I also get these type of migraines called hemiplegic migraines, which are bloody awful. They're like literally like you're having a stroke. And all of those things I was kind of managing individually. Managing is a loose, I'm saying that loosely there. But you know, I was getting on, I was still working, I was still at university, I was caring for my grandma, like that kind of stuff. So I was still managing. But I became very, very unwell with something else. And that illness, I'm not going to go into details about what it does to you. Please feel free to Google it if you would like. But it's called severe bile salt malabsorption. And I was left untreated with that for over 2 years, nearly 3 years, maybe just over 3 years actually. And as a result of not being believed about what was happening to me at that time, and it being left untreated, I become very malnourished, dehydrated and housebound, and ultimately ended up in a wheelchair. And I am now trying to get back sort of the strength that I lost now that I am on medication to try and help the symptoms of severe bile salt malabsorption. But as you can imagine, all of that happening at the same time was a lot. And in the midst of all of this kind of coming to a head, the last sort of member of my family, who I would call like an older member of family, passed away, which was my grandma. So like it's just me and my brother who are left from my family. So it was a hell of a lot, and mentally I think anybody would struggle with that, but physically it was taking its toll as well. And then the illness come on top of that, and I just completely lost who I was. I was very, very depressed, as I think anybody would be. Very isolated where I live. I don't know anybody here. We moved here to care for my grandma. So since she's passed away and since my being sick and housebound, it makes it very difficult to meet people. And as a result of that, the kind of confidence that I'd finally built up when I went to university has just evaporated. And I remember last February, I was very down. I was talking to my friend Claire, and she was just like, you really should try cross stitch. And I was like, oh God, why are you bringing cross stitch into it again? You keep on telling me about cross stitch. You know, I've got 30,000 hobbies. Like, I can't add another one. And it just, I don't know, it was just this thought that wouldn't go away. Usually I have a million different things going on in my head at once, a million different hobbies, and my bank account can, show that. But I just kept thinking about it, and I looked up some cross stitch, and the patterns that I found weren't my style. And then I remember Googling like witchy, like witch or goth cross stitch or something, and the witchy stitch had come up, and that was it. I was like, okay, I have to do this. And coincidentally, I was about to order a little embroidery kit on the internet, and I ended up finding this. So this was something, I apologise for the glare, that my friend Claire had actually sent to me years ago to get me into cross stitching, and I'd put it in a safe space and proceeded to forget about it. But this is it. This is literally where it all began. So this with a witchy stitcher cross stitch pattern, and I sat down and I started it, and I remember feeling for the first time in my life that my head was quieter, and I was amazed. And it progressed from there. Like, it really did progress from there. And here I am a year later, just over a year later, doing a Flosstube video about it. So yeah, let's get into the cross stitch. I don't have a lot, but I'd still like to share what I do have, and I'd also like to share some things that I've made as a result of cross stitch then having a positive impact on my other craft hobby things. I don't really know the word for it. But yeah, this is how it started. This was the kit that I found in one of those Kallax cubes back there. And I got myself some Ada from Amazon, I think. And I don't know what brand it is or anything. This is what it come from. I know it says RTO on it, but I don't know if that's a brand or just a company who sells it. I haven't got a clue. And you will learn that as well. I'm still learning the lingo. I'm not up to speed at all. But this was it. I got some white Ada and some black Ada. And where has she gone? I didn't make it. I stitched it. This. I'm so annoyed this is backwards. So it's backwards to me now. In editing, I'm going to try and get it to flip. But this was the very first cross stitch that I ever did. And I fell in love with it. So if you have stitched this, you will know that these sort of bubbles to the side are not part of the pattern. I added them because I didn't want to stop. They were the last thing that I did. And as I got to nearing the end, I was just like, I really don't want to stop stitching. So I added some more bubbles, and then thought, if I keep going, it's going to be a bit ridiculous. So that was that. I then went on and stitched this, and I'm going to talk about this dot in a second, because I don't think it can be fixed now, but I was so proud of this. I mean, to me, especially back then, it was massive. And I didn't stitch in here. I think when I first started, I was considering it, and then as I went along, I just thought, no, I'm going to stick to the pattern. Now, this is another issue that I've had as I've sort of been stitching, is that I can be quite rigid up until recently with like following patterns, like, oh, there's rules, you have to stick to them. I'm starting to learn that you can kind of do whatever you want, really. And you know, there aren't cross stitch police as such, but yeah. So this was the second pattern that I finished, and it was when I finished this that I knew it wasn't just a hyperfixation. This was something that I was going to stick with, and I don't know how to describe it any other way than a deep feeling. Usually I know within a couple of hours whether something's going to stick. I pricked my finger and I got blood on it, and I did try to clean it out, and then for some ridiculous reason I thought that a white acrylic paint pen might help. It hasn't, and now I don't know what to do. I might cut it out and make it into a patch, and then make this into a patch. I'm not sure if there's enough room down there to do that, but yeah. So that was my second ever cross stitch. Both finished. They're not fully finished, are they? What's it called? An FFO is a fully finished object. That's when it's all framed and made into a pillow or something. So this is just a finished object, is that right? It's finished. So is the witch one. Then I'm trying to remember what happened next. So this could go a bit skew with. I got a caterpillar cross stitch subscription box, I'm pretty certain, and it's this one. And I actually started stitching this at Download Festival. I was having a bad day with my pain. I couldn't be bothered to go out in my wheelchair, so I sat outside the tent and just stitched. I was like, why not? So, and this is finished as well. And I messed up so much on this. I remember I messed up on the cauldron. I like did it too wide or something like that. And I was right in the flow of things when that happened. I thought, you know, I was Billy Big Gonads, and yeah, humbled myself quite quickly. But I was really proud of this when I finished this. It's called Mythical Tales. Like, I have no idea if Caterpillar cross stitch like reissues subscription boxes at any time. Like, I know with Historical Sampler Company's sister site, Cotton and Twine, I know that some of their subscription boxes they'll later release like a PDF. I don't know if that's true for this, so I do apologise if it's not, but it's called Mythical Tales. Again, I'm sorry for it being backwards. But off the back of that, ignited, I'm just going to throw stuff on the floor. It ignited this like urge within me where I just wanted to cross stitch everything and make pretty things. So I ended up making my first ever project bag. Oh, there's a hair bubble in there, please ignore that. And I was so proud of this. I have had a sewing machine for ages. Again, my sewing machine was a hyperfixation, or so I thought. And I've tried quilting, I've tried bag making, I've tried making clothes, although I do want to get back into that. And who'd have thought, well, certainly not me, that cross stitch would be the thing to get me back into it. I was so proud of this. I'm so proud of it. And I followed a video on YouTube. If I can find it, I will put it down below. But there are so many videos on YouTube. So I made that. Then it was my birthday, I think. Something like that. I don't know, around this time. And I decided that I needed to buy all the floss in the history of floss, because I still didn't understand that there was like different brands of floss, what those different brands of floss meant as such, like you know, DMC being sort of the standard that most people use. Then I learnt about Anchor, which I've never used, and fancy floss, which it was a whole minefield. But I bought a pack of 200 skeins, I don't know how to pronounce that, on Amazon, I think it was. And apart from the odd thing, they're just in here. Like, I don't really know what to do with them because I have just been using DMC and Weeks Dye Works, I think. But yeah, they're in here. So this is what came next. And in there, there's loads of witchy stitcher patterns, like free ones, and a couple that I paid for on Patreon, I think. But what I learned very quickly is that buying in bulk, especially if you're not buying like the set of 500, means that you're actually not very likely to have all of the colours that you need. And that's what happened. And honestly, out of that entire bag of 200 flosses, I don't have the right colours to do any individual project. So it's just sat there, and I've started to collect DMC thread instead. So I got that was around my birthday, and then my husband, bless him, where is it? He got me this, which I haven't started yet, which is Love Poppet Night Riders. So this was June last year, but I want to do it this year as like leading up to Halloween. And he also got me, and I have no idea whether this is going to be like flagged on YouTube, but the Penis Mood Cycle by Little Guinea Stitching, which I just think is hilarious. So I don't know if you can see that. Now I have started the Penis Mood Cycle. Again, I've got no idea if this is going to be flagged. This is on Purple Paradise 28 count even weave, also by Little Guinea Stitching, and I love this colour. But they're so funny. They really are. They crack me up. And I want to get back to that actually soon. And this was my first ever venture into even weave. And honestly, the ego, I don't have another word for it. The ego that I had after I finished the Ghost cross stitch, this one. Like, I was convincing myself that I could do full coverage this and full coverage that. And like, when I started to stitch on even weave, I was humbled so quickly. It was ridiculous. But that leads me on to another of my bigger projects. I appreciate none of my projects are huge. I've seen people who are doing the full coverage, like Dragons in the Night or something like that. Oh, what's their channel name? Catkin and Lily. It's beautiful and massive, and here I am with my tiny little projects, but to me they're big. They're really big. I got a stitch along from Caterpillar Cross Stitch, and it is called Ghostly Gatherings, and I think it's here. You don't see the picture, but that's the little pouch for it. And when I ordered it, because I was in my ego phase, I ordered even weave, and I don't know if I'm gonna sort of be attacked. That's not the right word, but I can't think of another word for saying this. But when it came, I was really confused, because obviously I'd already started stitching on the 28 count even weave by Little Guinea Stitching, and to me this did not feel the same, and it has the little, I don't know what they're called, the thicker bits. So having looked online, because I was like, what on earth is this? I was being told by other people that this is actually linen, and I believe it to be linen. Now, I've stitched on linen with another company, but Caterpillar cross stitch will and do keep saying that this is even weave. So I don't know enough about fabric or the ins and outs of it to confirm nor deny that. I haven't been stitching long enough, but what I will say is that if you are expecting uniform fabric when you order even weave, maybe don't expect that if you order even weave from Caterpillar cross stitch. I hope that makes sense, because you might, if it's your first, like if you're dipping your toe into it, this was overwhelming to me, and it was a lot of money for me, and it put me off. I'll be honest, I was so overwhelmed by how difficult I was finding it and not understanding how to stitch over the thicker bits and that kind of thing. But anyway, here she is. The moon is glow in the dark, and I stitched glow in the dark around the ghosts. I hope she's still on camera. I can't remember if I did the skull and the candle, if I'm honest, but I didn't finish her. So like I said, this was a stitch along, and as it got nearer to Christmas, I just thought I want to start working on some different things. But I also had a different Halloween stitch along going on as well. I am really proud of this though, I will say that. Like, I persevered, and even looking at this compared to my stitching now, I can see how much neater my stitches have got, and I don't think they're bad, you know, here at all, but it's just another reason why I'm doing this. The progress that I've seen in myself, I really would like to keep track of it, because here I am saying that, you know, I don't think I could ever do a full coverage, or I don't imagine I'd find that easy or anything like that. Maybe in a year's time I will have started one, you know. So it's like a little online diary for myself. So the second stitch along I was doing, again, what are these called? Whips. It's still a whip. Was this one by Historical Sampler Company, and this is called Pumpkin Patch, and this came out in July of last year. Sorry for my head above it. I have no idea if it's in shot. Now, one thing I did want to say with this, because this is me going back to like my black and white thinking and like my rigid thinking, the kit was supposed to be stitched on this. Now, I don't know what colour this is. I do imagine it's as Zweigart fabric though. And this, I believe, is 16 count Ada, and they had the option on, forgive me, they had the option on the website to add on this colour, which again, I can't remember what it's called. I'm ever so sorry. I feel like it's like Stormy Grey or something like that. Oh, that's the back of it. And so I got it. I thought this to me is more my colour scheme, so I will pick this colour. Now, I don't know if you can tell, there is stitching here and here, like spider web, and there's some stitching here, and the colour of the floss is completely, to my mind, lost. If I do that a bit closer, I think it's lost. Oh, and also in the border. And being a new stitcher, I didn't understand, and I know this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous, that I could change the colour. But also, in hindsight, I wouldn't have even known what to change the colour to. But in saying that, the closer it got to Christmas again, or like November, I decided to put this away. And then as I've got more confident in my stitching over the last few months, I've decided that this year I'm actually going to unpick those colours and pick a different one. And I'll probably ask for some help with that on Instagram, if people wouldn't mind helping me, because they were really helpful helping me pick some fabric for one of my current stitch alongs, which I'll show you in a minute. But that's a work in progress. Yeah, a whip. Yeah, so that's something that I'm going to do again at some point this year. I'll get it back out. So another finish that I did, actually no, I won't do finishes next. I'll go, because that was this side of the year. Excuse me for noise. I then made some more project bags. So please don't bang. No, there we go. These are 12 by 12. I don't know, they fit a Q snap, like an 11 by 11 Q snap in them, because that's another thing I learned as well. The nudge hoops, I have a lot of problem, like my fingers dislocate, so I have a lot of problems with this. I can show you this thing. So usually my husband has to tighten them up for me, but that's frustrating if I want to do it by myself, you know. I have to wait for him. So Q snaps have been a game changer. But I didn't have a bag big enough, and again, apologies for the glare. I made this bag, and that's the back of it, and there's a little, oh, I can't remember what people call them, orts, something like that, for, you know, the snippy bits that you cut off. And I made this bag, same size with the other little bag as well. So I'll show you this one first, because that's just a little pouch, and it's got the reverse, it's like a paler colour. This I started and obviously didn't finish because I've become very ill before Christmas again. I had a really bad flare. But this is a Lakeside Needlecraft stitch along, and it stamps when it's finished. I apologise, I don't have the picture because I use Markup XP, I think that's what it's called. But it will be stamps, and I think it will actually be quite big when it's done. And I was so excited while I was waiting for them to arrive that I also made, out of some scrapbook paper, floss drops. I think that's what they're called, floss drops. And these were a game changer. Like, I really do want to look into storage for floss drops, because I like the idea of how neat bobbins are, but this is just works for me. It's just a much easier way for my brain to deal with it, and it's one less step, I think, in my head. You haven't got to keep cutting and then finding somewhere to put the little bits and whatnot. So that was started at Christmas, and this is what I mean. This is where I've started to realise, in my head I was like, I'm a one project person and I can sit there and get these things done. And I humbled myself very, very quickly, or I was humbled very, very quickly, because I had 3 Christmas projects. Is any of them finished? Of course not. So the second Christmas project that I had was by Hoops and Crosses, and this isn't even started. So here is the floss, and I made some floss drops for it. Ta-da! I put one tiny bit of floss just so I knew where I needed to start. She's beautiful. That is on my list for this year. So my plan this year is that I'm going to do something called Christmas in July. I have no idea if anybody else does anything like this, but does anyone remember, like, QVC, when they used to do Christmas in July, obviously in July, and they'd start to show Christmas decorations and Christmas crafts, and you could get all your scrapbook supplies and like decoupage card kits. And yeah, that's my thinking with it. I'm going to have a Christmas in July for cross stitch, and this is the Die Hard, I don't think I said this, I'm so sorry, this is the Die Hard stitch along, and Hoops and Crosses do a few different ones. Like, there's an elf one and Home Alone, and at the end you kind of stitch them onto felt and hang them. It's so cool. But this one was my proudest. It's not finished, it's still a work in progress, but this was when, like I said, I was humbled and started to realise that it is absolutely okay to have multiple projects on the go. And I started to watch a lot more YouTube at that time, and there was a lot more people sharing whip parades and that kind of thing. And I just got excited by the prospect that I could have multiple projects at one time. And this is Ho Ho Holiday. I don't have like a page for it or anything, by the Tiny Modernist. And it's stitched on 28 count opalescent even weave by Little Guinea Stitching in Cosmic City. It's a grey colour. Oh, it's beautiful. The opalescent stuff is like blue, and I just thought it would kind of look like snow. So this is where I'm at. I hope it's in frame. And one thing I've probably learnt the hard way, I didn't do the back stitching as I went. And in my mind, that's because I didn't want it to get trapped in the frame. What are your opinions on that? Do you backstitch as you go? Do you backstitch at the end? Does it depend on the project or how big it is? Like, if you could let me know, that would be great, because I've done one bit of backstitching and it's tiny, so I'm not even sure you could count it as that. So yeah, I'm overwhelmed by the prospect of going back in and backstitching all of this. But this was done with fancy floss, so Weeks Dye Works and colour, creative colour, I can't remember. I'm ever so sorry. I will, that's another thing I want to do. I want to start writing this stuff down. But the floss is so pretty, like the changing colour. And this is my favourite out of all of them. This, the blue, the way the blue transitioned. I'm so proud of this. So ridiculously proud of it. And I don't think the back's that bad. Now, I'm never going to be it's going to look exactly like the front. I wouldn't even know how anybody does that, but I don't think I did bad. So I have one bit to finish, apart from the back stitch, and that's at the bottom. There's this beautiful, like houses, I think. They go across the bottom. There's some Christmas trees. I can't think if there's wording. I don't remember. But that is definitely going to be done in July, because I want it finished to be framed for Christmas, because I love it so much. I'm so proud of it. So they're them. Then, what did I start stitching after Christmas? I think it was this. So this is a Cotton and Twine subscription box. I want to tell you who the pattern's by, because I feel bad for not knowing. I do apologise. Michaela Marula, I hope I pronounced that right, from Croquetagogo. I also hope I butchered that. I'm terribly sorry. I mean no offence, honestly. But this is just stunning. And this was the first time that I ordered linen. Now, like I said, the stitch along from Caterpillar Cross Stitch, I'm pretty convinced that's linen. especially based on this. But this was different. I chose to do this. I chose to purchase this, and it is finished and I love it so much. And when I ordered this, I was unaware that there was like one released in September, or the September prior. And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna miss out on that. And I had a look on eBay and that kind of stuff to see if anybody was selling a kit they didn't want, or something like that. But then I learned that they put them back up sometimes. So recently I did actually buy, I don't know if I can show you this on here, because obviously I don't want to show you the pattern, the PDF. So that was available. I have no idea if it's still available on the Cotton and Twine website, but the PDF become available. And I have that to stitch, and I received the subscription box the other day for the spring version. So I imagine the summer one will be coming soon, and I will get that as well. I love them. I think they're beautiful. And I also got this. So this is also Cotton and Twine subscription. It's a work in progress, obviously. Stitching till spring. I love the snail. I love him. But I stopped this. I'm undecided as to whether I'm going to do any more stitching on this year, because another stitch along come out that I fell in love with the idea of, and that is Snail's Hollow stitch along. So this is my, what do you call it, Q snap, the 11 by 11 Q snap. And I'm behind. I think I'm always going to be behind when it's stitch alongs, but yeah, this is Weigart 32 count Murano even weave. So I'm sure most of you know this, but it's plain on the back and printed on the front, just in case anybody doesn't know. And this is in the colour Vintage Mocha Brown. No? I think it's Vintage Mocha Brown. Because there was a colourway called Vintage Wood from one shop, and I bought both because the poll I did on Instagram was kind of, it was split between two different colours, and this is the same colour as Vintage Wood. So yeah, that's a stitch along. I've also purchased Lola Crow's stitch along for Museum After Midnight. I think that's what it's called. I'm ever so sorry. I promise I will write stuff down next time. Today I just thought I'm just going to film. Why not? That was my chair. I do apologise. So yeah, that's a stitch along that's upcoming soon. I've ordered the fabric and floss for it, and again that will be stitched on 32 count Murano by Zweigart in Vintage Marble Grey. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, so my stitchy fabric stash is very modest. This is it. This is all I have, but it is growing. And I just wanted to give a quick sort of shout out to Little Guinea Stitching for a couple of reasons. Like I said, I've not spoken to very many people. There is an account, Cross Stitch Sarah, I believe, and this is the extent of my anxiety. A few months ago she did a video and she mentioned Dracula's Castle from the Witchy Stitcher book, and I commented on her post on YouTube, or her video on YouTube, and she replied. You know, I think she replies to everybody. She seems to be very active at talking to people. And I said, like, oh, I really love the pattern and I'm hoping to start stitching it too. And she replied and said that I was more than welcome to join in with her and a couple of other people who were doing that as a stitch along together, and I didn't reply. I don't know, I just completely shut down. I went to reply, wrote a message out multiple times and deleted it because I just get so overwhelmed. But I have spoken to Graham and Leah is on YouTube, but I think she's taking a break. And I hope, you know, obviously everybody needs a break from stuff, but I hope she comes back. I love her videos. Like, I love their dog Summer. But I have spoken a bit more to Leah in YouTube and kind of on Instagram comments. A little bit, not a lot, but I have spoken to her more. And a little bit to Graham. And Graham also, I think, helped Jason when Jason was ordering the Penis Mood Cycle for my birthday, and they're just lovely people and their fabric is brilliant. So I have Orangey Orange Even Weave, which is opalescent as well. I have Mysterious Marine, which is, it is blue. I don't know what kind of blue it is. And then my remnant of Purple Paradise, which isn't opalescent, it's just standard. But if you haven't checked their fabric out, do. This isn't, I'm not affiliated or anything like that. It's lovely. It's really soft. I believe it's Zygarde fabric that they use, and they hand dye it, and they're just amazing. Like, the pieces you get are all pre-measured. I think they do 2 different sizes now. They've got beautiful colours, but they're plain, so they're not marbled. And like, what I was finding when I was looking for fabric originally, like, that wasn't like this, how do I describe it, like pre-packaged from Zygarde, a lot of the fabric that I was finding was hand dyed, but mottled. And I felt so overwhelmed by it because I'm not very good at imagining the finished result in my head with colours and stuff like that. So when Little Guinea Stitching started to share their like plain fabric, and I don't like using the word plain because it's anything but their unmottled fabric, I was just like, oh, I need it all. And I still need to buy more. They've got this lovely, like, neutral colour. I think it's actually called Lovely Latte. And they have another blue that I want to get. So, yeah, I wanted to do a little shout out to them. Just one, for always being kind to me when I've messaged and replied to YouTube and stuff like that. Because I always get worried that I'm waffly or coming across weird, and they've been nothing but lovely. So that's why I wanted to give them a little shout out. And their fabric comes so quickly, it's crazy. And yeah, so I do have a couple of other kits that I'll quickly show you. I have loads, like patterns on my tablet. What I have noticed is now I've learned that you can get digital patterns. I'm just adding to that all the time. I'm not going to go through them. I was kindly gifted this. This is Wheel of the Year Povitrulia. I was kindly gifted this. I have not started it yet. I have opened it. I did a video. My plan with it is actually to maybe stitch each as it comes up. So that's what my thinking was. I apologise for the glare. Again, I showed you this earlier, but this is a kit that I'm hoping to start stitching this Halloween, August kind of time maybe. I also have a caterpillar cross stitch one. This was another subscription box, but I did not start it last year. I'm not even sure that I'm going to stitch it this year, but I have learned that that's okay. It is okay. I don't have to. Yeah, I just kind of felt I'd done an awful lot of cauldrons and witches and that kind of thing, so I wanted a change. So I'm not sure where I sit with that at the moment. And then this was the cotton and twine that come literally a few days ago, I think. So, oh, the last thing I will show you, and if this isn't a sort of thing of work smarter, not harder, I don't know what is, but I couldn't physically bring my Lowery stand in. But I wanted to show you my needle minders. Oh, this is ridiculous. So I just took off the clamp. So this is my clamp with my needle minders, and I have they're mostly caterpillar cross stitch. So this is Historical Sampler Company, who came with the owl one, the winter one. This came with the stitch along by Historical Sampler Company. This is a random one my husband got me for my birthday. It's a little voodoo doll. Cauldron, that came with the caterpillar cross stitch along. My husband got me this one for Christmas. It says "Don't be a prick." I love it. It's like a button, but instead of having a thing, it's a magnet. Unicorn came with the Unicorn and Book caterpillar cross stitch one, I'm pretty certain. And then my friend Claire got me this for Christmas. And I won't show you it now. Oh, and also I hang like hair clips. So when this is on my Lowery stand, I have on the bar here a crab, like a hair crab. And I tend to clip the cardboard with the floss. So if I show you this, here's one I prepared earlier. Oh, it's a mess. Because I don't have like a magnet or anything like that. Well, I do have a magnet. They're here. Magnetic board. But I like clip like this. So I tuck the card underneath the magnets, and then whatever's hanging over, I clip on with a hair crab. So the Lowery stand, again, I'm not affiliated, but game changer. Although I do want to get the corner clamp, because this only works with Q-snap. It was working really well to begin with, and for whatever reason it's now stopped working as good. But if you use your Q-snap with a grime guard, I think that's what they're called, or you put a bit of fabric between, it seems to be able to grip it a little bit more. So yeah, that's my work smarter, not harder. And this little piece, I can't remember whether I showed you, is something that I'm going to start today, because I will be sober for 2 years on the 13th, and I have no idea if I'll get it finished by then, but it's just something little that I wanted to do for myself, and it is a witchy stitcher pattern. But I will show you that when it's complete. So that's me. I am ever so aware that this is very long, and I'm ever so aware that it's all over the place. I really do hope that some people made it to the end. If you did, thank you. I hope to make more. I do promise that they will be more structured. I'm going to write stuff down. Like I think I said, I used to make YouTube videos about planners and filofaxes and stationery. Haven't done it in a long time, but you would think that for somebody that is a stationery addict, that I would have had the kind of inclination to, I mean, look, I've got post-it notes there. I should have wrote notes down. I didn't, but that's the chaotic brain that is in my head. So I hope... Hello? Do you want to come and say hello? I don't know if he will or not. Do you want to come up? Oh dear, big yawns. That's it. This is Boo. Oh, this is Boo's tail. Let's see if you can see him. This is Boo. Mwah. He's a lovely boy. You leave that cup alone, baby. But yeah, if you got this far, I can only say thank you. And I hope that you've enjoyed my very, very modest whip collection and my little stash collection and that kind of thing. I'm trying to cover his bum. But thank you for watching, and I really hope that I get better at this, and that it does help me with my confidence. Who knows? We'll see in the future, I suppose. But yeah, thank you for spending an hour with me. I always say this in my Instagram videos, and it's something that I try to say to people when they're having a bit of a bad one. If you haven't been told today, you were worthy and you were loved. So yeah, I will catch you soon. Bye.